So I thought I'd try something a little bit different this week, and that is to tell you a bit of a story. A story about one of the biggest failures in my life and some of the lessons that I learned as a result of it. I know some of you have asked me to share a little bit more about my personal life and what I do and things like that, and so hopefully this is in the vibe of what you like. But today we're going to talk about my startup failure story. So several years ago, I decided to become a part of a healthcare app startup. That was something that I thought at the time was a really good, innovative idea. I met someone who had started building this technology, and with my experience in marketing and my background in consulting and professional speaking, I thought I could be a great partner, someone who could actually help to grow the app. Now, in the back of my mind, I had all these fantasies of becoming a tech startup billionaire. You know, I was fantasizing that I was going to drive these fancy cars, I was going to fly first class around the world, I'd be talking on stages about how I created this really innovative technology, how I was this amazing, innovative founder, all this kind of crap. The truth was that I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I put some money into the app, I decided to invest my time into it, and I essentially quit my other career to spend most of my time working on trying to promote and market and build interest in this new technology. Now the problem is, when you're working on a team with other people, very often you have different ideas and different work ethics. And I'm not saying anything specific to criticize the people I worked with, but there was a lot of discussions and meetings and replanning and re-strategizing, and things never really actually got on the ground. And in fact, over 2.5 years, I think I probably wasted maybe $60,000 to $70,000 of my own personal savings trying to keep myself afloat while we were trying to launch this app. Of course, there was always the promise that one day it was going to be worth a lot of money and that we were going to make a ton of money when we sold it, or we got a proper investment or whatever, but it never came to fruition. And the thing was, at the time, I really felt kind of embarrassed about the fact that I was failing at something that I thought I should be good at. And I didn't really know how to fix it. I didn't know how to solve it for myself. But that was an important lesson for me, because there are times in your life where you think you're going to do something, you're going to be great at something. Maybe you have a fantasy like I did, thinking you're going to excel in some certain area of your life, and you just don't. And that's just the way it is, unfortunately. And I think for me, in this time in my life, I had a real wake-up call about what my skills and my abilities were as a person, and they certainly weren't in the tech startup world. You know, the world of technology and apps and, you know, all that kind of stuff, Silicon Valley, all that different stuff, it's very seductive and it's very appealing, and I'm not trying to criticize anyone who has ambitions in that area to do something for themselves, but there is also a lot of fakeness and a lot of bullshit and a lot of people talking out their asses when they don't really know what they're talking about, and they're making things up as they go. And sometimes that does work. There are occasions we've seen companies, you know, go from nothing to becoming unicorns, and their founders become millionaires as a result of not knowing what they were doing but making it work. But the vast majority don't succeed. And I was one of those cases. As I said, I initially invested my own money, my own savings into the startup, and then I also probably wasted another $50,000 to $60,000 of my own money that I'd saved. I wasted keeping myself afloat while our app was supposed to have been built and was supposed to grow and develop afterwards, which it never did. Now, I'm not trying to say that I'm not at fault at all. There are certainly things I could have done better. I could have had better skills. I could have had a better reality check, knowing that, you know, I wasn't going to succeed as soon as I thought I was. We weren't going to make the kind of money that we thought we were. But after that experience, especially towards the end, when I realized that this was going nowhere, I really struggled with giving up the ghost, with actually quitting on my dream or my, you know, desire to be successful in this area. It took me probably 6 months to finally admit to myself that this is not going to be a success. And that was a really tough decision for me, because I'm the kind of person where I will persist with something and I will keep pushing myself. And that's why I wanted to share this today. I know it's a bit of a different video for me, but I wanted to share the reality that sometimes things don't work out like you think. I am an optimistic, positive, forward-thinking person. I'm a person who believes in self-actualization and personal growth. But there are times in your life where you will make a decision and it doesn't work out the way you want to. That's why I wanted to share this week. It's just a little bit of an insight into something where I made a big mistake in my life. I certainly paid for it financially and time-wise and in personal setbacks, but it also taught me resilience, and it taught me that sometimes, even though something doesn't work out, it's still worth giving it a shot, and at least you know at the end of the day. Probably, though, the biggest lesson that I learned from my startup failure was that I didn't like the work. Even though I had all these dreams and aspirations to be rich from this technology that I invested in, that I was putting my time and effort into to promote, the truth was I didn't really care. I wasn't passionate about the industry. I wasn't passionate about the technology. I just thought that it was a good way to make money. And you see this a lot, in the technology world, where everyone says they're going to change the world through their app or their software or whatever. The truth is, a lot of people, we're just out for the money and we don't really have that love and passion for it. And that was probably the biggest mistake I made. I didn't love what I was doing, therefore I didn't put everything into it, and that's a big reason why I believe it failed for me. My friends, I wanted to share this week as a little bit of a different video. Hopefully it gives you a bit more of an insight into me and my, past and the things that I've experienced. And I think sometimes in your life you just have to face the truth of a situation. You just have to realize things aren't going to work out the way you hoped, and that you need to move forward and you need to find another way to succeed. Fortunately, since then, that was several years ago, I've been able to reinvent myself in business, and I've also found other passions such as YouTube and also professional speaking and different things like that, which have started to reinvigorate me and make me feel much more alive in my life and give me the kind of success that I was seeking over the long term. I am not a tech startup billionaire. I probably never will be, but you know what? That's okay. Not everyone needs to be Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg or Steve Jobs or whatever. It's okay just being who we are and making a difference in our own way, in our own business or our own industry or our own hobbies and interests. So my friends, I hope this video was useful for you. Maybe you're in a similar situation. Maybe you had a story where you started a business or you were part of a startup that didn't succeed. I empathize with you. I would say to you, keep going, keep trying new things, but sometimes you've got to realize that if your heart's not in it, maybe it's time to pack it in and find something where you really feel that makes you shine. My name is Daniel Mitzenshort. Please leave a like on this video if you liked what I had to say, or leave a comment below sharing your experiences. Please consider subscribing. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Thanks for watching, and as always, thank you for improving yourself. I feel cleansed. Woo.
Of the day.
People say you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing.
But nobody's really willing to admit that they're suffering and that they don't know what to do.
I think it's just the feeling that you haven't been good enough. That's just something maybe both men and women feel, but definitely women.
Startups are this strange industry where the expectation is failure and the exception is success. The default state of a company is to die.
I think the biggest misconception about being an entrepreneur is that it's glamorous. We've all seen, or most of us have seen The Social Network, and everybody thinks it's all about sort of black turtlenecks and jeans, and in fact it's a really hard slog. My name is Jamie Pride, and I am a serial entrepreneur and venture capitalist. I founded a number of businesses, but in 2016 I started a business called Refined. It was a really fast rise and it was a really fast fall. The stock price went from, I think, 20 cents on listing to almost $2 in about 14 weeks. That translates to about $200 million in what's known as market capitalization, and it subsequently had a similar fall, and we had to lay a lot of staff off. There was a lot of instability in the company, and ultimately, I left. 9 out of 10 entrepreneurs fail, but you always think you're going to be the one.
Failure is paramount to success. Just like sports people practice, shooting a basketball and missing 100 shots before they make more shots than they miss. And my name is Nicky Shivak, and I'm a co-founder of Blackbird. I invest in startups. When we look to invest in a company, I don't think we think of failure as good or bad either way, or a fact of life. You know, you look for the people who persevered through the failure, that showed determination.
I actually talk about it a lot. So if you come to one of my talks, I actually start telling women about the shit I did wrong. All those mistakes, everything that I made was all worth it in the end. So don't feel like you're on your own. My name is Christy Whitehill. I am a tech entrepreneur and I'm the founder of Tech Ready Women. My first idea for a tech startup was a dating app called Fancy. And it was an app that allowed you to fancy somebody anonymously. So quite like Tinder. Oh, there was a lot of things that went wrong. Some of the mistakes that I made was hiring the wrong development team. I didn't know, the right skill set to hire because I knew nothing about tech. The thing that made it fall down in the end was being outcompeted by Tinder. Personally, we lost the $50,000 that we invested in it, and we had the $750,000 media deal on the table, ready to go. But I lost all of that, and it can really take its toll mentally.
I received a number of death threats. I had, people threatening to, hurt my family. I had people coming to my house. Hello, you effing piece of shit. The C word, fat C word. I thought I was ready as a pretty experienced entrepreneur for that kind of failure.
Today, we're going to look at why startups fail, so you can avoid that. There's certain things that just build a lot. Knowing what they are and how to handle them will make it much more likely for you to succeed.
This is Raw Startup.
3,
I've always
2,
been
1, fight!
With Zavino, we raised $57 million and have 30 million users all over the world. For years, I've spoken to several startups every single day. I've met with some amazing founders and startups. Some of them succeeded, a lot of them failed. I've learned a lot from them. In this video, I will look at the top 5 reasons why startups fail.
Enemy team won the orb.
Real data and my 25-year experience. For every reason, I will give you clear and applicable advice on how to avoid the pitfalls that kill you. About 8 years ago, we did our seed round with Danes from different seed. At that point, they started using me to a lot of their portfolio companies.
Your team claimed the orb.
Share experiences and learn. A year in our show, I realized a lot of these we know that no startups fail. This was the first. This made me very, very look at what had gone wrong. Why had these things gone wrong? Since then, I looked carefully at why did these companies shut down, what goes wrong for startups, and that's
Enemy team claimed the orb.
when I started doing research for this list, to me, the lack of funding, running out of money, is one of the primary reasons why. That is true. A lot of companies do shut down because they don't have any money.
Round lost.
That's a consequence of something else. Startups don't die because of the lack of money. They die for some other reason. So I want to look at what that reason is. What is the actual reasons why they ran out of money? Let me tell you the story about Blipper. Blipper was founded in 2011 in the augmented reality space. They wanted to build a search engine where you could use a camera to search for anything. Just take a picture and Blipper will tell you what it is. In December 2018, they went into bankruptcy.
3,
Although
2,
they raised
1,
$130
fight!
million, they ran out of money, were not able to raise. More specifically, Blipper claimed that one investor had blocked their investment. But really, there must be another reason why Blipper ran out of money. That reason is on this list. I had some insight as I met the CEO and founder a few years ago. In the second,
Enemy
I'll show
team
you the real
claimed
reason.
the orb.
We will start at the bottom of the list. Here's the 5th biggest reason why it's not. Number 5, lack of persistence. Being a founder is not a quick job. If that's what you want, there are better and easier ways to get it. The people that do this for the Lambo usually go.
Your team
When
claimed
people
the
ask me
orb.
what does it take to be a good founder, I always say stamina. It takes a lot of stamina to be a good founder. From the outside, it can sometimes look like those startups are overnight successful. But in the real world, there are years of hard work. Or as we say, an overnight success always takes 5 years. When you're a founder, you never really know what you can do. I think this particular technique shows that sometimes the lack of persistence means that you stop just before you do it. One of the reasons why I'm a pretty good founder is because I never do, even when I should. Now let's look at the pro tips. How can we avoid this? The best thing you can do is
Death
set
vortex
expectations.
approaching.
Prepare yourself and the people around you. This is not a short run. This is a marathon. This is something that the years to do.
Your
Years
team
of hard
won
work.
the orb.
Now let's take a look. Number 4, premature scale. A few years ago, the
Shite.
Project looked at
Scheiße.
the primary reason why startups fail. They concluded that the biggest reason why startups fail, especially funded startups, was premature scaling.
Your team won the orb.
Before the business is ready. This often happens just after the funding. There's a lot of money in the bank, massive pressure to spend that. The investors are shouting, grow, grow, grow. Growth is good, but the business has to grow. We had a competitor in the US that was very, very successful in the US market. They raised $50 million based on that success, and now the pressure was on to grow, grow, grow. They decided to launch in the UK, France, and Germany rapidly. However, the markets were very, very different. The model didn't work. The launch cost tens of millions of dollars, and they ended up shutting down all 3 markets. It almost killed them. They'd spent almost all the money and very little. This is classic premature scaling. They grew way, way too fast. At that point, the investor said, no, we're not quite ready to put more money.
Fight.
Let me be very clear. This is a very dangerous situation for a startup. If you scale prematurely, spend all the money with little to show for it, you can easily be in situations where no investor will put more money. Here are some examples of premature scaling. Rapidly increasing cost too early, international growth too early, premature paid user
Enemy
acquisition
team won
without
the
full
orb.
effects actually. Okay, so what are the pro tips so we can avoid premature scaling? Don't be too aggressive right after a fight. I'm not a great coach. But there's one rule that I have that works really well. Don't bet just after you won a bid. If you think you can do anything, you will not do
Enemy team won the
Take it
orb.
cool right after a big one. Just say no. Investors who around you, investors they believe in you. That gives you a lot of leverage. Use that leverage to just say no if somebody's pushing for premature scaling. We're moving up on the list now, so let's take number 3. Number 3, broken founding. I usually say founders build
Your
companies
team
and
claimed
founders
the
destroy
orb.
them. There's a lot of truth in that. If you see a broken founding tree, you have to fix it. There's no way a broken founding tree will ever go to business. It happens. Usually they disagree on who should do what, how much to put into the startup, or it can just be basic.
Death vortex is
Let's look at
incoming.
some pro tips. Alignment and management.
Your team claimed
I
the
think the
orb.
best advice here is to have agree early who does what the ambition level is for the startup. Create as much alignment as you can and manage everyone's expectations early. You might as well have that conversation early on because you are going to have it at some point. It does not get easier. It actually gets harder. Founders need to be different. We have it in this
Enemy team won the orb.
that think like that might not be the best solution. We need people that have different skills and sometimes different personalities to build our business. Because there's so many different tasks and skills needed to solve this. If all founders are similar, they will all want to do the same task and fight about who's going to do the other task. Different personalities.
Enemy team claimed the
I don't know why the Ash guy kept going back there, bro. I don't know why he wanted on this other side of the map.
Solo is not a great solution. The easy way out of this one would be to be a solo founder. But the numbers actually show that solo founders perform a bit worse than companies with multiple founders. I highly recommend having multiple founders, so being solo is not really a solution I would recommend. Okay, we're getting to the top of the list. Let's have a look at number 2. Number 2, bad timing. First mover advantage sounds like a great idea for a startup, but really it might not be where you want to be. You want to hit the sweet spot in the middle, not too early and not too late. The problem with being too early is neither the technology you're building nor the market is ready. You end up investing crazy amounts of money into a technology that isn't ready to a market that really isn't ready yet. Neither Facebook nor Google were first movers, but they were the last ones standing. As you can imagine, if you're very late to a market, there will be too much competition. Let's take a look at Vivino, because we hit the timing incredibly well. We started in 2010, and when we launched the app, there were 600 wine apps in the App Store. You might think we were late for the market, but actually the timing was really, really good. Let's have a look at that timeline. The iPhone was launched in 2007 and the App Store in 2008. By 2009 and 2010, it really starts to grow in popularity. And the competing OS Android is also starting to take off. The smartphone is starting to gain critical mass. We also need the camera and the phone to be online in a supermarket. That also happened around the same time. As time goes by, it also becomes easier and easier to do that. The technology matures. If we had started 2 years earlier, first of all, building the product would have been a problem. Developing on a smartphone was less mature, and the maturity needed was not mature.
Are you paying
On top of
attention?
development being hard and costly, we would be building for a small demand.
3,
There were very few
2,
smartphones out there,
1.
and we had a bad camera, and most of them were not online. We needed all those things for Vivino to work. That was all about being too early. If we were too late, somebody else would think about massive. There's a great TED talk by Bill Gross on this subject. I highly recommend it, and without giving away too much, it's got something to do with it. So what are the pro tips here? Rather late than early.
Enemy team claimed the orb.
By executing better. I would rather be late than early. You can't be too late. A little bit late is better than too early. Probably too early, there's a very good chance that you'll be dead before the market actually hits. Investors gone and no more startups as the money will all be wasted. The way to compensate for being late is to do it. Execute better.
Enemy team
Build a better
claimed the
product,
orb.
beat the competition. It's really, really hard to compensate for being too late. The
The
window,
death vortex is incoming.
in our case, is probably a couple of years. Anytime between 2010 and 2012,
Round
we
lost.
would have been fine. So you look at a market and think maybe it's too late. If you can execute better, you might actually have a shot. Okay, we're getting to the top of the list. Number 1, no product market fit. Yeah, no surprise here. The hardest thing and the most startup, there's no way around it. You have to find your product market fit. Product market fit basically means that you find a product that you can build at scale that
3,
the market wants,
2,
at the price
1,
that the market
fight.
is willing to pay. And yes, you need all three to have a product market fit. Product market fit is mostly a challenge in the beginning, but we see more and more companies that have raised multiple rounds of funding and still can't find a product market fit. For Vivino, we found a great product market fit very early. Scanning a bottle of wine, giving you all the
Enemy
information in
team won
seconds
the
was a
orb.
great product market fit. However, that was a free product, not something we could build a business on. We needed a second product market fit that could make us some money. So in 2016, we started building a marketplace on top of it. We wanted to have a marketplace where we could charge a marketing fee every time a bottle
Enemy
of wine
team
was sold.
claimed the orb.
It took us a couple of years to find the product market fit, but by 2018, we found the product market fit for the commercial part of the business. The point is, be aware you might need multiple product market fits before the startup is out of danger. Now let's go back to Flipper that I mentioned. They've raised 130
Enemy
million
team
dollars.
claimed the
In
orb.
2015, I met with the CEO and founder. They already raised a lot of money. For me, though,
You're
pretty
done.
clear we did not find a product market fit. They still kept it all going to December 2018. And the reason why they went down was not lack of money. They never.
Your team claimed the orb.
Okay, let's take a
Death
look at the pro
vortex
tips to
incoming.
find a product market fit. All focus on product market fit. There's no way around this. The only thing you need to do is to find it. Don't waste your time doing any other stuff. When you don't have product market fit,
Round
you
lost.
only look for product market product. We sometimes fall into the trap of thinking we have a product market fit, a false product market fit. Be careful with those false positives. A very common mistake here is to do paid marketing. Be very careful with doing paid marketing before you have a product market fit. It may trick you into thinking that you have a product market fit. You really don't have a product market fit. You're just paying users to
3,
buy or download.
2, 1.
Finally, this is about learning fast. Always use a minimum viable product strategy. Release early, often, and learn fast. The faster you learn, the faster you have it. That's it, guys. Take a very good look at this list. Based on my experience, these are the top 5 reasons why startups. Looking at this list is so important because we can learn
Your
so much
team
from
won
the
the orb.
that will increase our chances of success radically. If you want more videos just like this one to learn to build a better startup, please subscribe to my channel right now. Thank you very much for watching.
Enemy team won the orb.
Today we're going to look at what you should never say to an investor. Things that will make them walk away. Investment killing statements. Yes, we're going to dig into those investment killing statements.
This is Raw Startup.
We have a full panel of experienced investors. Investors have done hundreds of investments each, and
Today, we're going to look at why startups fail. So you
Dead.
My
Enemy
goal
team
with this
claimed
talk
the
is
orb.
pretty simple. At YC, we see a lot of companies who raise money on demo day, as you can imagine. But still, the vast majority of them die. And about 70% of them do not go on to find
Enemy
any
team.
form of product market fit. We've thought a lot about why this is and how we can help change it. And so one of the things we try to do at YC is hint at some of the reasons why, even after raising that first million or 2 million, why companies die. And I wanted to go over in the next 50 minutes some of the trends that I see are most common. So with that, let's move to the first one. I like to call this fake product market fit.
You like to call it, or is it?
Today, we're going to look at why startups fail, so you can avoid that trap. There are certain things
life you're in right now, whether you're in the new exciting phases like the puppy love of a business or a relationship or whatever you're doing, you're so excited about it.
Everybody's sort of crushing it and everybody's sort of, putting on this brave face, but nobody's really.
So it's the first day where none of them are screaming at me. Morning gang, 26th of April. I remember you. Today is the day. Basically now, Wrinkle is being published. From this point on, we're now going to start banging our drum. August, September, we have got to show that Wrinkle works. It's scaling. It's growing. It's Sunday, the 2nd of May. We are 48 hours on from when the first pieces of promotional content went out. Basically, it's not been started for once the promotion. We didn't get a single request. Not getting one Wrinkle makes me feel like there's something catastrophic. Like even if you had a bad user experience, people would still go through the trouble of that experience. But yeah, I love feeling great right now. It's the 6th of May. Morale is at an all-time low. 6 days. This is where we test our meta. I'm going to step up and start banging the old drum. So we're putting out a lot of videos. I'm putting a video out tomorrow, asking people to help us and get Wrinkle signed up. Like I said, it's not great. This is business. This is life. 20th of May, 2021. In the first 2.5 weeks, we probably had 5 or 6
3,
organic
2, 1.
more zero. We had a big day yesterday. A chap called Andrew Henderson, who's an amazing football freestyler, put out 3 stories yesterday on his Instagram to 1 million followers. Guess how many Wrinkles he got? Like someone with 1 million followers trying to get 1 Wrinkle. Then what? I'm going mad. I've got a video going out on TikTok. I'm officially a TikToker now. I've got a paid video going out on LinkedIn. Let's see how it goes.
Enemy
Back to the
team
scene.
won
According to 31st of May, we've got a plan. We based this up. We're going to start running competition, really inject some traffic and like get people using like cash prizes, and then also potentially hiring someone as well to get people more into the platform. People constantly going out and finding ways. 18th of June total. We've had about 10 wrinkles now in the last 7 or 8 weeks. One of our creators did her sponsored video. Great response from that. She sent 3 wrinkles. On the back of our content, we've also had a huge amount of inflow from people saying, let's see, watch this space. But, you know, things are getting a little bit better. 14th of July. I don't even so really. My motivation for doing this is zero. I kind of walked past the camera and realised I've not spoken in a while. The users are signing up, the traffic is happening, you know, organic growth, just flatline. Absolutely flatline. We've got a few more plays that we're going to try. Fortunately, we've spoken to a creator who is interested in potentially becoming a brand ambassador, and we've also got the option to do a marketing space with an agency. We're trying, I'm plugging away, I'm trying to do stuff, I'm trying to make moves, but yeah, it's hard. Wednesday, the 11th of August, tomorrow, myself, Simon and Gov will have a chat about potentially pivoting, which basically means changing something quite fundamental about the platform. A lot of startups fail because they run out of money. We're not running out of money. We will in the near future, but for now we've still got time to make one big play, one big push. 31st of August, it's the day before our 1-year anniversary. Potentially this could be the end of Wrinkle. When you have 4 months of just no real significant spiking or anything happening, then you just sort of have to really look hard in the mirror and just say, like, maybe the idea just fade. We could spend more money at this point in time on marketing. We already tried that. We had so little return on that spend that it was stupid to do it again. We thought long and hard about pivoting, however, there's no clear idea that's presenting itself, which wouldn't just be a complete shock. So I think it's time we kind of call it a day, which is a hard decision to make. That's the so it's the 9th of December, platform kicking out and the last entry into this video. Unfortunately, I was about to call it a day. The primary reason is Wrinkle has failed to work. And today is exactly 4 years on from when I did it. It's been one hell of a ride. It's sad, there's a lot of mixed emotions here. There's an element of disappointment, there's an element of guilt. The moral of the story is there's no harm in failing. If you're watching this, thanks for watching.
Your team won the orb. Death vortex incoming.
Wrinkle's winning so far. Wrinkle. See.
Enemy team won the orb. Your team claimed the orb.
I'm basically here to talk about a couple of the most classic mistakes that I see, whether it's those I see when I advise other founders, and I would say I've probably made all of these myself in one form or other.
So it's the
Hey, I'm Saga and I'm a software engineer in London that went to university to study aerospace engineering. And during my time at university, I started 2 startups. And now I am a billionaire. Yeah, that whole billionaire thing, yeah, that didn't actually happen. So here's my story of how I basically failed when trying to build a successful startup twice. So let's start off with my first startup, which was called Vertisaur. Vertisaur, in essence, was basically a marketplace for people who wanted to launch small satellites, could find rocket companies that had those capabilities. There are actually quite a number of small launch vehicle companies out there on the planet, and I thought it'd be a good idea to basically try and make a platform which helps people who want to launch small satellites such as CubeSats find an appropriate rocket to launch the payload on. So you might be thinking that's quite a cool idea, but here's why it didn't actually work out. So the first reason it didn't really work out for me is that I didn't actually have any experience of actually going down the process myself of trying to put a launch on a rocket for a small satellite. Secondly, due to a lack of actual full understanding of the industry, I assumed that there are a lot of rocket companies, so there would be a lot of people who are able to launch satellites. But actually, majority of these small sat launch companies are actually still in development, so they aren't able to commercially launch satellites just yet. So in essence, what I was trying to do was build a marketplace where pretty much both sides of the market were still not ready. So whilst I was working on my startup, I spoke to a number of different rocket company CEOs, and well, some of them came back to me and said that they didn't really want their services to be commoditized. And with the market during my time working on Vertisaur, that I think you might find interesting to know. In my case, I was sort of approaching this as a way of being like, I think there is a problem, so here's a cool solution that I think will work. Instead of being like, is there actually a problem? And then coming up with a solution that actually solved it. So that, I think, is really important to understand thoroughly before you even attempt to found a startup. So I didn't actually work on this startup myself. I did have a co-founder, and this is another mistake I made. I ended up picking the first person who knew how to code that was willing to work with me, and they weren't necessarily interested in the thing that we were building. And if you haven't really properly thought out about who your co-founder should be, this can be somewhat of a problem. And my co-founder was not really interested that much, or didn't have a deep passion for the industry, or especially what we were building. So I think that, you know, it's not ideal when, you know, only one of you is like super passionate and the other one's sort of just there for the fun of it, I guess. So I think if you are to basically start a company with someone else, make sure you're both like super passionate about the industry and sort of the reason of why you're wanting to solve this problem. The reason why you need a co-founder to be passionate about the industry and the problem you're solving is because there's going to be moments in time where you think that your company doesn't really have a positive direction. And so you need someone who's able to really like stay strong and hold and believe in what you're building to overcome those challenges and those dark periods of running a startup. And this also applies to you as well. If you're just running a startup for the sake of getting rich, then I would say you're probably not gonna be so successful, because most startup founders that I know of that have gone on to build whatever they're selling their products to. So they're the main lessons I learned when working on Vertisaur. But now let's move on to startup number 2. Introducing to you Yeet Deal.
Yeet?
Yeah. I literally decided to put Yeet in the name. So I started working on Yeet Deal after I saw what a company in Australia was doing. But that company in Australia hadn't brought their services to the UK, so that's where I thought I could capitalize on. Okay, so why didn't this one work out for me? Well, clearly it took 2 attempts at a startup to really understand the lesson of actually work on something that you understand the industry of and that you actually care about. And in this case, I have never worked in a restaurant, nor knew anyone that had, or really understood the restaurant industry as a whole. And then the other thing is I don't give a shit about restaurants, to be honest. I just wanted to make an app because then I can make a ton of money. So yeah, it didn't work for obvious reasons. But I did do some interesting things when working on this product, and that was to pretty much cold call restaurants and trying to talk to restaurants to explain to you how you can help them. And actually, out of all the restaurants me and a co-founder of mine called, one person was genuinely interested. But then I guess, you know, since the business model of the app is that the more restaurants you have, the more people will join, and therefore the more restaurants will join, just having one person interested was not really worthwhile pursuing, and also because neither of us really probably interested in like building this as a product. We were just like, meh, we'll just sack it off. So yeah, in essence, I guess the biggest reason why it has failed is not the business idea. The business idea might have actually worked, but there was just no interest from myself and my co-founder to really get it going. So yeah, having a deep-rooted interest in the problem you're solving is probably, you know, one of the most important things that you should have as a startup. I hope you learned some stuff from this video about what it really takes to start a company and what also not to do, as well as what intentions you shouldn't have when going into starting a startup. And yeah, I guess I kind of learned the hard way by sort of going through the process of trying to start a company twice. And well, I think this is something that you guys can learn from if it's a career path you want to take, if you want to be a startup founder. And if not, I hope you just found this video entertaining. So subscribe to my channel, like the video, and comment down below if you have a startup or if you're actually working on building a startup. And I will see you in another video. Goodbye.
Your team claimed the orb. Death vortex approaching. Your team claimed the orb. Enemy team won the orb.
In this video, I'm going to cover 6 signs it's time to move on from your startup. And if you stick around till the end, I'll tell you the silver lining of moving on, at least if you're building a SaaS company. I'm Rob Walling, a serial entrepreneur. I've written 3 books on building startups, and I've invested in more than 120 companies. Did you notice that number just went up? We just closed another couple batches of Tiny Seed founders. So I'm talking about moving on from your startup, and I want to differentiate between a lifestyle startup and an ambitious startup. It can be bootstrapped, you can raise funding, it doesn't matter. But having an amazing lifestyle SaaS that's throwing off $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 a month and isn't growing at all, that's an amazing business. It creates an amazing lifestyle for you. But if you're more ambitious and you're looking to grow into 7 or 8 figures, then being flat for a year might mean that it's time to hang it up. So really this video will focus much more on ambitious, growth-oriented startups, whether you're bootstrapped or you raise some amount of funding. Sign number 1 that you should move on is when it's dragged on for a year or more with no growth. Either through a lack of effort on your part, or
I jumped
through
too early.
hours and hours of effort from you, showing that you do have the interest in growing it. But by the time you get to a year of working on this with no growth, what's going to change from there? You know, what haven't you tried? What other options are possibly going to change it at that point? Realistically, a year is not a hard and fast number. Maybe for you it's 6 months, maybe for someone else it's 18 months. But I feel like if you've literally been flat or declining for a year, you have tried a lot of things. And this is a case of knowing yourself. If you tend to stick with things too long, maybe you need to ease up on that. Maybe you need to have a sooner time frame. Maybe you need to quit after 6 months of no growth. Or if you're the kind of founder who bounces from one thing to the next, even then, honestly, a year is a really long time. Oftentimes, there's a lot of founders who are building something and they're still under 1,000 MRR, or they're at 2,000 MRR after a year of really grinding on it. In that case, to me, you either need to bring in outside help or you need to shutter the thing or sell it. But let's say you're at 100K MRR and you plateau for a year. There's a lot of reasons why that could be happening. I actually released a video about plateaus and overcoming them just a couple of weeks ago, and we'll link that up in the description. If your business is doing $1 million, $2 million, $5 million a year and you've plateaued, is it time to hang up after a year? Maybe or maybe not. It really does depend on where you're at with the company in terms of revenue and traction, and I think your own personal willingness to grind through it and see how far you can push it. Sign number 2, funded startups fail when they run out of money. Bootstrap startups fail when the founders run out of motivation. And by motivation, I don't mean this week you're tired of working on something. I mean, this is when you're just 100% absolutely done with it. Even if you're growing, there are times when you're running a company and it's growing really well and everything's going well and you're tired of the product, you're tired of the customers, you're starting to burn out, and you just are ready to move on. Now, I don't believe you should sell or shut down your product and move on if it's been a short time or if it's something that's transient. You know, if you are in the point where you're burning out or you're experiencing depression or some big life changes and your company's kind of getting in the way, I like to think that you should work through those and not make permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you have a temporary problem that's causing you grief, causing you to not be interested in running this company for now, it's a one-way door. If you sell that company, the odds of you being able to buy it back are almost zero. If you shut it down, it's gone. I'd say hold on, keep working, see if it passes. But if you find yourself month after month, maybe even up to a year, where you're like, I just don't want to work on this anymore, and you're the type of person who does is when you can't make payroll and layoffs won't fix it without breaking the company. There are a lot of reasons why you might not be able to make payroll. Let's say a big client cancels. Let's say you get a Google smack. Let's say you get kicked out of the App Store where you've been getting all your traffic, so you have platform risk. Let's say you run out of funding. You have to look at all your options. I, at one point, was looking to borrow for my 401k to make payroll. I never had to do that. Some people borrow on credit cards. Not something I've ever done. Not something I can recommend. You have to at least evaluate and look through all your options. Oftentimes, when you're approaching running out of money, you can figure out ways to reduce expenses, often by reducing headcount in order to keep the company solvent. Sometimes if you don't see it coming or you don't react fast enough, there's just no way to salvage it. It's an unfortunate truth, but of course it is one sign that you may need to move on. I want to take a moment to highlight the sponsor of this video, Lemon.io. It's hard to find good engineers, especially if you're trying to reduce your burn rate. Lemon.io delivers vetted, senior, results-oriented developers, all at competitive rates. As a subscriber of this channel, you can get 15% off features, especially if the platform builds kind of a crappy version of it. You can try to build something that's more usable. This is hard to recover from. Not impossible, but it might be a sign that you want to move on. I do think that if you're on a platform and they replicate your product in essence, it's a tough time. And of course, this is a tough time to sell too, because no one wants to take on that platform risk. And that is one reason that platform risk is so dangerous. Sign number 5 that you might want to move on is when you receive an offer you can't refuse. I have seen founders turn down ridiculously high offers because they think they want to keep growing the company, which may be a good reason, or they say something like, I don't know what I would do next. This company is my whole life. You're an entrepreneur. You'll figure out what to do next. I think that mindset is maybe a mindset of fear, but you're a founder. You've built something that someone really wants and is willing to pay a lot of money for. If you can put enough money in the bank where you don't have the freedom to work on whatever you want for the rest of your life, my guess is you're going to work on something pretty interesting, and it gives you the freedom to take a long, slow roll on the next one and not have to get to revenue so quickly like so many bootstrap and mostly bootstrap founders I know have to. If someone comes along with an incredible offer, it's something that you should consider, even if you love that company. I think there's something to be said for providing for yourself, maybe your family, for the rest of your lives. And sign number 6 that it might be time to move on is when you make a bet on a technology or an ecosystem and that bet isn't panning out. I have a good example of that. It's Derek Reimer, the founder of SavvyCal. Before SavvyCal, Derek started Static Kit, which was a tool set for static websites. And he was betting on it essentially being the next WordPress and becoming a ubiquitous technology. It might still be, but it didn't get there fast enough. I asked Derek about his decision to essentially shut Static Kit down. He did wind up selling it, but it was just a small amount of money, and he rolled that into running SavvyCal. But he told me, and I'm quoting him now, Static Kit was an example of building something in a space with a lot of hype without a clear vision for how much value you can capture from that ecosystem. Static Kit garnered a decent amount of interest, but ultimately proved to be a pretty low value commodity. So the decision for you as a founder is, do you have the will and the vision to keep following this path of iteration, potentially far from what you think the market might need, Or are you better off starting with a hypothesis that you feel more confident about? I sometimes talk about unfair advantages you might have when you launch a SaaS company. Oftentimes it's an audience or a network, or it's being early to a space. And the risk of being early is that sometimes you're early and it never pans out. And so far, static websites, even now a couple years after Derek shuttered StaticKit, still, I don't think would be giving him the growth that he wanted. The ecosystem certainly has not become the WordPress of today, but when you're early to a space, there is that risk that it just grows slowly or that at some point it declines and that the bet you're making on the ecosystem doesn't pan out. In a second, I'm going to tell you the silver lining of moving on for your startup, specifically if you're building a SaaS app. Before I do that, I wanted to tell you about the sister podcast to this YouTube channel. It's called Startups for the Rest of Us. I've been hosting it for 12 years, and every week I'm talking about building, launching, and growing ambitious SaaS companies. SaaS is incredibly valuable. Even at low MRR levels, your sales, your exit multiples are extremely high because these businesses are so cash efficient and there's a lot of demand for recurring revenue. So let's just take an example. If you've built a SaaS company to $10,000 of monthly recurring revenue, and let's say 80% of that is profit, which is totally feasible. So you're making $8,000 a month of profit. That means $96,000 a year. And if we were to take a 5x multiple on your net profit, that's an exit price of $480,000. In my book, if your failure leads you to sell for almost $500,000, it's a pretty nice failure. If you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you'd hit that like, subscribe to the channel. We're coming out with videos like this every week, deep dives into building, launching, and growing SaaS. Hope you enjoyed this one. I'll see you next time.
I don't sleep, I wait. My tomb, my rules.
Who are you?
Who are you? How far they?
Hello guys, this is Ali Solanki and today we'll be reacting to an interesting video. Now, I've not done reaction videos ever before, so this will be a first for me, but
Why I left web there.
So we're kicking off the year tackling one of the big questions. What is Web3? If you spend any amount of time in the blockchain and crypto space, you will find yourself required to develop an extremely thick skin. The attacks come from everywhere, and they're vicious. So we become adept at framing our worldview in simple, defensible concepts. And then we memify them, and then we go to war. But while most of the concepts we explore here are very, very good at pissing people off all around the world, nobody's ever really been that bothered about the concept of Web3. It's always felt like the grand vision that makes all the hand-wringing and cognitive dissonance worthwhile. But all that changed a few days before Christmas when Jack Lightning Bolt called into question the very soul of Web3 itself, reducing it to a simple meme and provoking reply guys from all over blockchain to tweet a technicolor torrent of outrage in the vain hope that Mr. Lightning Bolt would take the bait, which of course he didn't. Jack, let's not forget, is one of the wizards of Web 2, and his barbs drew the ire of another of the Web 2 legends, Mark Andreessen, who famously forgot to bring shoot cancellation. Jack was now officially banned from Web 3. Now everybody got proper angry about this because, well, they knew Jack was wrong. You know he's wrong. We all know he's wrong. How dare Jack, this Web 2 dinosaur with his magnificent beard, challenge the magnificence of Web 3? Many were quick to highlight the fair launch of the Uni and ENS tokens and defend the honorable VCs like Delphi Digital doing God's work in the space. But the uncomfortable truth is that Jack is probably mostly right. Now, Uni, ENS, Delphi Digital, these are the exceptions that prove the rule. And that's fine, because they're also a light to point the way. And so it was left to Kobe to pull the argument back to where it actually makes the most sense. Rather than pointless public spats about who does or doesn't own Web3, he preferred to ask, WTF Web3 even is? So I read all this stuff, and if there's one thing I took away from all of the commentary on Jack, it was that everybody seems to be just wrong about Web3, or at least unable to separate the meme version, which is the one Jack Dorsey's attacking, from what I think is the true definition. And even worse, they become so frenzied about attacking those that seem to be attacking them that it all descends into he shed, she shed, she shed, he shed, shed. You see, I can't even say it. So in this episode, I'm going to keep it simple, take it back to first principles, because Web3, it really isn't that hard, and yet absolutely nobody seems to get it. So stick around if that's what you... So let's go back to origins, and it doesn't get more original than Bitcoin, the OG. And in Kobe's post, he shows the results of 2 polls asking whether Bitcoin should be considered Web3. And the results are kind of surprising. But if no one can even agree on what Web3 actually is, then why are we getting so frothy about who owns it? But this is about the memey Web3 Silicon Valley VC bro shill piece connected to everything in crypto that isn't Bitcoin. And y'all know already how y'all Bitcoin is going to max y'all up. But ask yourself, do you have a handy definition for Web3 when the maxis come for you? And they surely will. And while you think on that, let's hear from the people about it. And there can be no debate because they are, of course, our sponsors. Xerion is mission control for Web3, giving users the ability to trade DeFi tokens, transfer assets across chains, and show off their NFT collections all in one place. Xerion offers a multi-chain experience with asset tracking and trading across 7 networks, including Polygon, Optimism, Arbitrum, and BSC, so you'll never miss an opportunity waiting on gas fees to drop. NFT owners can also see their favorite collectibles and art as widgets on their iPhones or Apple Watches.
Most Web3 games will fail. If you hope to make any money in this space, you must first understand that one fact. In angel investing, most companies that you invest into, most startups, are going to fail. In fact, historically, over the last 50 years, about 8 out of 10 startups have gone BK, bankrupt, and they no longer exist. But that might make you wonder, well, how do any startups get any money then if investors know, well, 8 out of 10 times I invest in one of you guys, I'm going to lose all my money? Well, here's the deal. The 2 out of 10
This is not a fair matchup. I'm just going to say that.
Make such an incredible return, a 10x, a 100x, that a single winner or 2 winners can make you the return on investment of the total 10 that you put in far, far greater than the losses. You don't need everyone to win. In fact, in investing, you can even have most not win, and you can still overall be a winner. Hi guys, my name is Jake. This is On-Chain Gaming. I've been covering the Web3 gaming space for over 2 years. I have also made over $1 million investing in stocks and cryptocurrency. Remember to hit a big thumbs up and hit subscribe if you want to stay up to date on this budding industry as gaming gets real ownership, and because of that, starts to become a lot more realistic. Recently, I tweeted out that you guys should treat unreleased Web3 gaming crypto like venture capital treats angel investing. Now, it's important to note there's a lot of actual, like, real differences in buying a cryptocurrency and investing in an actual company. For one, as of now, cryptocurrencies, they aren't securities and they don't give you any ownership in anything. They're just a utility for an ecosystem, and you're kind of just playing on the market dynamics of supply and demand and hoping that that's going to impact price, which supply and demand do impact price a lot. So very big difference there, but still the idea that especially for unreleased Web3 gaming cryptos and NFTs, you need to treat it like venture capital treats angel investing. Do crazy due diligence, do so much due diligence, and still expect, after you've learned everything there is to learn about the project, including the team and the tokenomics, read the white paper and looked at all of the game developers and past track records and how much runway they have and all of that, after doing all the due diligence, still expect that 8 out of 10 will fail. But expect that the 2 out of 10 that make it will 100x and make it all worth it. Like really, really worth it. I can give you guys a couple examples just from my own investment track record here. I'm gonna look at stocks, but just know that crypto works the same way. So I have only been investing in the stock market for about 5 years. I mean, I'm only 27 and I got into it in my early 20s. And the first thing that I did was just try to read all of the books from people with the best returns over the last 100 years and just try to like fill my head first and foremost with a lot of wisdom from people that have proven they have good track records. And that's kind of what my—
Did he just say 100 years?
Foundational fundamental base. But I invested in a lot of different companies, and a lot of them didn't really do much. But one of them, Tesla, like 20x in a matter of just a couple of years. And that single company, despite most of the stocks that I own not doing much, that single company made me over $1 million by itself. In crypto, I've had very similar things happen. I've had a lot of NFTs that I've bought for games that have gone down. And despite being in a bear market, I've had some that have done very well. In fact, I've been a little bit lucky, and some of my biggest purchases happen to have been the ones that actually did well, which made all of my losses really not important at all. For example, I bought a Mystic Axie. It's just so happened the Mystic Axies were the only ones that were not inflationary, which is why I spent a lot of money on it. And I was able to sell the Mystic Axie for $25,000 when I had not paid close to that in order to buy it. I was able to get a really nice profit. That's not even the biggest profit I've gotten from an NFT. So just know, if you're doing the due diligence, you're still going to lose most of them, but you don't need most of them to work out. You just need to keep holding, and you need to let your winners ride in order to, over a decade, really make out super, super good. So hopefully that changed your thought process a little bit about this. Now, I want to just touch on this a little bit at the end of the video. There's been a bit of controversy on Twitter recently about crypto creators talking about markets instead of just don't like the market game within crypto gaming, and there's going to be a market game anytime you add real ownership to anything, because then we start to care about the value of things we own. We just start to care about things more when we own them. So there's going to be a market game, and there is going to be a massive audience of people that care about the market game. If you don't, then you can like watch videos about Web2 games if you want an entire 100% complete focus on the gameplay. I am totally going to make a lot of videos focused on gameplay here, but the market side of crypto gaming is a fun game. And honestly, my second point here is that there's really not any actual fun games in Web3, at least not fully launched ones that are on par with the really fun Web2 games, which leaves us with a situation where the funnest game in crypto gaming right now is the market game. And that's the honest truth. So if people on Twitter want to start villainizing game creators for talking about tokens and prices in Web3, I mean, feel free to, but I'm not going to listen to you because you're talking out of the side of your head. Go watch Web2 content creators if you only want to focus on gameplay. I am not going to listen to that shiznaz. Kagi Jan has been defending the idea of talking about prices and stuff, and yeah, I 100% agree with everything that he said. I mean, imagine shaming a Pokemon collector for talking about the future price appreciation of his favorite Charizard.
I should have collected
that would be
those.
Insane. That's part of why he's excited about collecting Pokemon cards. That's the truth of it, and it's the same for Web3 gaming. Or think about a Lego collector. Is a Lego collector going to be shamed for talking about the potential upside of a limited edition Star Wars Lego set that's no longer going to be made going forward, and comparing that to the previous limited edition sets and how much they've appreciated? My younger brother loves collecting Legos, and one of his favorite things to tell me is that Legos have out-appreciated as an asset class the S&P 500. If you guys enjoyed this video, give a big thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts below, and then also if you're not subscribed yet, make sure you hit subscribe. And if you'd like to continue learning about why I and excited about this space, then make sure you check out this video. It's just like an overview about kind of conceptually from a fundamental level, how does making money playing crypto games work? How can it work? And is it sustainable? Check it out, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Death vortex approaching. Enemy team won the orb.
Why did you even jump, bro? It's not like the server was gonna identify your iframe.
This is exactly how Gala Games and the Gala coin gets to $1. So, if you have been living under a rock recently, Gala did massive in the previous run. It doesn't take a genius to understand that this coin can move, but the thing we must understand is, how do we use coins like Gala Games? You guys just keep that in mind. This is not a video to say, hey, buy Gala Games only, right? Game with every portfolio strategy we always preach, or I always preach because it's only me here. We only really want to look at obviously a super low market cap. Market cap right now is 240 million. The previous market cap is all-time high. We did get pretty much 5 million away, which is good to see, right? Again, you're not investing for the previous run, you're investing on pricing today, right? So even if it just gets previous runs in market cap, which I can destroy, I'll show you that in a second why I think that. You're investing in 3 cents. And also keep in mind, guys, there's risk to this, right? So if Gala Games goes to 0 or it just is lackluster, even if it is lackluster, I still think you're going to make money. This is why I'm making a lot of my own money, like I have shown in this channel. Bones times. Keep in mind, if it goes to 0, don't come back and look at the video and say, Jay, you effed me. I'm playing this squid right now. If Gala Games goes to 0, it's your own fault, right? Because if any of you crypto invested, you shouldn't be in crypto investing if you are prepared for coins to go to 0. This is why, again, I just said, portfolios are always spread no matter what. This is how we can't, or pretty much 99% guarantee can't lose. If we're in enough coins, not too much, so
your team claimed the orb.
I recommend solid altcoins. You're not coin 6,042, right? Top altcoins have the potential to do well. You will make money. If you're 100% one coin, it's your own fault. If you're 50% and 50%, it's still a little bit risky in my opinion. You obviously have. So just a quick disclaimer, Gala Games, watching, you haven't paid me a single penny. I cover coins I'm interested in, so keep that in mind. And also, I think I'm pumping my own bags. A lot of people have been saying, or I see a lot of people have said, it's not possible for a YouTuber something. I wish it was, because then I'd be honest and say, hey, look, I'm pumping my own bags. It is what it is, right? But it's not possible, and I would never do that for most of you guys. No, so, like I said, there's a different video. We're not really going to have, there's no crazy script or anything, bullet points when you go over. I just wanted to give my honest, raw opinion on Gala Games and what I think these guys could do. So, like I said, previous run, I like to call it 90 or so cents, and I read this. It was fantastic. Problem was, a lot of people read this in the opposite way, right? Meaning, they were buying when I was offloading to them, right? And again, I'm not the smartest person in the world. I effed up on many other coins. People were doing that to me, but it's a fair game at the end of the day. For example, like H-Bar. Sure, a lot of people were offloading when I was buying, right? That's the way it plays. The good thing is, we learn from our mistakes and we move on. So, where are we now in the cycle? Well, Bitcoin, everything is having a big whoopsie-doopsie, right? And if you aren't familiar, I started a weekly DCA where I'm DCAing in every single week. I'm doing that, guys, because I am prepared to ride Bitcoin down to 17k, 16k, 15k. And I don't mean buy Bitcoin. What I mean is think how cheap effing stuff is going to be. For example, the H bar bought the other day 9 cents, maybe 7 cents when I pressed buy. It was 60, right? Or 6 cents, should I say. Looking back at Gala Games, the price 7 days ago, losing massive momentum. And again, 1 month ago, losing massive momentum. But if you look at 3 months, obviously it pumped, right? This is because Bitcoin pumped. So do not, as we go down this video, number one, don't get FOMO, okay? And number two is, don't get discouraged when you see your portfolio down 20% in a week, down 10% in a week. It's because of these two boys right here, mainly this one, Bitcoin, right? Once Bitcoin starts to develop, remember, guys, you're not physically losing the money, right? I think a lot of us, when we're starting out, you know, don't really understand that. We see,
Ladies and gents, welcome back to day 8, I believe, of the crypto calendar, and today we've got something for you. It's not news from today, but it's something I've not seen anyone cover, and it's super dumb. That's all I'm going to say. Also, I know I look absolutely frazzled. It is really hot here in the UK today, and I have been baking like a potato out in the garden for the last 3 hours. I fell asleep. Big mistakey. Wakey wakey, big mistakey. So, Unstoppable Domains is a Web3 domain service for domain names, but they don't really do anything unless somebody else implements them. They're just NFTs otherwise. And this is where a problem kind of starts already, because these domains are being created by both Unstoppable Domain. The problem is that if we ever do move to a fully Web3, God help us if we do, by the way, but if we ever move to a fully Web3 internet, every single provider is now going to have to implement every single domain provider that's randomly just spawned from somewhere. Right? I mean, it makes no sense. It would have to be one domain service to register domains, but it's not. It's just not, because just Web3 things, okay? But Unstoppable Domains, while they've realised they're currently absolutely useless, being as there is no domain provider or service to resolve these domains. I mean, I believe, who was it? Was it Etherscan, or was it CoinMarketCap? One of them has now recognised Unstoppable Domains, and now has then a domain name next to the wallet if they own a domain rather than just the wallet address, which makes no sense really, because if you own multiple domains, which one does it pick? Who knows, I guess, just random one. But yeah, Unstoppable Messaging is a thing they've now announced. Get ready for Unstoppable Messaging. Hey, Snow.Polygon, nice to meet you. How long have you been minted? That's a panty dropper line right there. Snow.Polygon, what's up, JohnDow.NFT? I've been minted for 1.5 years now. He's too young. Stay away from him. Get ready for Unstoppable Messaging. We're excited to announce Unstoppable Messaging, a new domain-to-domain messaging platform coming this year. Unstoppable Messaging will allow you to send encrypted messages to other domain owners using their Web3 domain. Manage who can and cannot send you messages, target messages to specific badge holders, stay up to date on your favorite projects, and more. This will work across all domains, including our original domains and the new branded TLDs. Okay, so we have got to the point now in crypto where we're reinventing the wheel. Somebody here has created, wait for it,
3,
Facebook
2,
Messenger.
1.
I know. The fact you can block somebody is astounding. I've never seen it done before. In fact, I do believe that Facebook Messenger stole that technology from Web3. It has to have. There's no way they could have got it from anywhere else. Here's what Sanket Saar, Vice President, Head of Growth at Polygon Labs, said about the product. Identity is at the center of every community. In the Polygon community, .polygon domains provide that digital identity. We're thrilled the Polygon community will gain a Web3 solution for connecting with others using only their .polygon domains with unstoppable messaging. I guess my real question with this is, why does this need to be a thing? Like, genuinely. Because the entire messaging is going to happen through Web 2 servers, still. It's basically going to happen through the same sort of servers that Facebook Messenger happens through, that WhatsApp happens through. The only difference is, it's got to connect to the blockchain to read someone's NFT to see if they've got the domain before it sends that message. So why is it a thing? It's actually a more convoluted way of sending a message to someone, and you're locked to using your name as an NFT's name. I just don't get it. There's no point. We're still in the biddling.
She got squished on the wall.
The biddling phase. The unstoppable domain will be able to message any other unstoppable domain holders, whether they use .polygon, .nft, .x, or any other domain endings, as long as they're minted their domain to a wallet address. Wait, as long as they've minted their domain to a wallet. Ladies and gents, welcome back to another video. Today we are back in the metaverse. We are taking another look at Earth 2 because, my god, they've done it. And by that I do not mean they've made the metaverse. By that I mean they've somehow cocked up once again, and this time it feels like it's bigger than all the other ones put together because of what it entails. So, for those of you who don't know what Earth 2 is, I'm going to do that YouTuber thing where we give a quick recap. So, essentially, Earth 2 is the metaverse. Not a metaverse, but the metaverse. Except it's not. It's really not. It's purely a place where you can buy land, which are just JPEGs on a grid. Like, you can buy that land if you really wanted to, get a bit of motorway, you know, a toll road there. I don't know what you'd do with it. And neither does anyone else, to be quite honest, because currently there's nothing to do. They've had some hiccups along the way. They've not done too well. And by the way, there is currently nothing you can do in the metaverse. All you can do in this metaverse is spend money on nothing. So, yeah, people have just been royally bent over and shafted with this. Well, you know, it's another week, another massive cock-up. But first of all, in more exciting news, Earth 2 has turned 2 years old. So now we've got a real good gauge of time frame here. It's been 2 years, and they've still done essentially bugger all. They've raised over $100 million from the morons putting money into this, and they just keep stringing them along, and they've managed to do it now for 2 years. So congratulations, Earth 2. That is really an achievement. So they've put out this little blog, and let's just take a quick look.
I have been laid off. I've been in the tech industry as an engineer for over a decade now. In the recent years, I've been working with Google as a software engineer, and now I am jobless. But it's what I needed. Like many other engineers, or even just people in the industry, I had different small projects that I started that went nowhere, stopped halfway, and plenty of those things. Ideas written down, a lot of side crafts, and wondering what can I do with these things that brings me joy. And I thought maybe I could do these things on the side because it takes no extra cost. And many people who are employed in these office jobs can attest to this. It is actually remarkably draining for some reason. There's no physical labor, but there's still something there where when you are done with your work, you come back home and you sit down and you try to do something that you enjoy, you just can't find the energy to do those things. And I've been telling myself for a few months now that maybe I need to be cut, maybe maybe I need to be fired in order for me to do something that I really want to do finally. And the time came. So why am I making a video about this? Well, one, it's a kind of an accountability. I'm putting myself out there, and that kind of gets me into a space and mind of, okay, I am committing something that is visible to the world. You know, even though nobody's holding me up to it, I feel a little bit more committed by doing this. It feels real. Another thing is, I want to show my process. There's a lot of learning to do, and I feel that maybe there are someone out there that
disappoint you.
would like to see that process of getting into indie development as a solo developer who's, you know, just kind of discovering himself. Is it a tutorial? Maybe. Is it a just general dev blog? Maybe. You find some interesting nuggets here and there. But yeah, I mean, that's my thought. I have some other projects I want to, but one, I really want to make a good game.
Alright, day one after the layoff. I am feeling not so different. I had a lot planned for today to get right on with my project, but my dog had a different idea. This is Somi. Somi, hi. She's a 15 years old miniature.
Miniature American Poodle? Speaking about getting laid off, I gotta find me a job.
Emo Princess 666.
Dancing in the graveyard, leave me in a coffin. Call me on myself, ask me if I'm off it. Getting in my head, leave me like I'm dead. She wanna drink my blood, but I want hers instead. Dancing in the graveyard, leave me a hot topic. Call me on my cell phone, ask me if I'm off it. Spinning in my head, leave me like I'm dead. She wanna drink my blood, but I want hers instead. Seen slut in the club, and she's getting fucked up with the halo on my head and these diamonds on my tongue. She said she liked my fit, but it wasn't up to snuff. But my face was really cute, and she really wanna fuck. So we linked online, and she's like blah blah blah. And I wanna cut her off, but I really wanna fuck. So I chat her up in the bind on a day, and she's like, by the way, I'm a vampire baby. Graveyard, leave me in a coffin. Call me on my cell phone, ask me if I'm off it. Spinning in my head, leave me like I'm dead. She wanna drink my blood, but I want hers instead. Dancing in the graveyard, leave me a hot topic. Call me on my cell phone, ask me if I'm off it. Spinning in my head, leave me like I'm dead. She wanna drink my blood, but I want hers instead. Dancing in the graveyard, leave me in a coffin. Call me on my cell phone, ask me if I'm off it. Spinning in my head, leave me like I'm dead. She wanna drink my blood, but I want hers instead. Dancing in the graveyard, leave me a hot topic. Call me on my cell phone, ask me if I'm off it. Spinning in my head, leave me like I'm dead. She wanna drink my blood, but I want hers instead.
This is a real Dirty Pop exclusive.
Meet me at the class. Let's go to Hot Topic. Let's go do our hair. Let's take a mirror selfie. We look so good right now. Let's fuck your up right now. You look so hot right now. So you studying that? Now you wish you had. Do you think about me ever when you're in the toilet? When you're in the club? turn me on, please turn me on. It's so obvious to see, so you have to let him in. Take a picture of us, we look so skinny in the crowd. Nobody wants to let me, just like the virgins are. I'm fancy and the love, let's shine within us. I took you night out in your lap. I was so fucked up, threw up in a cab. She's the gal next door with the pink house. I'll dream about it tonight.
Your team claimed the orb. Round one.
It shall happen again. Always happen again.
Enemy team claimed the orb.
I like how to claim the orb after I use all my abilities.
Enemy team claimed the orb.
I said 2 a.m.
3, 2, 1.
It's always the same guy, baby girl, I know. She wants some more FaceTime, get her iPhone. Never see me in the tail, I got it all night long. And the cops get called, I'm already gone. Wearing all black at the function. I'm
I'ma stack my cash, I'm doing something. Tattoos on my body, I'm a bad kid. I don't give a fuck, I'm living lavish. It's always the same that, baby girl, I know. She wants some more face, I'm gonna get an iPhone. Never see me in the daylight, party all night long. The cops get called, I'm already gone. Wearing all black, all the function. I'ma stack my cash, I'm doing something. Tattoos on my body, I'm a bad kid. I don't give a fuck, I'm living lavish.
I'll fight anyone. I'm ready for some action.
I'm ready for some rations.
Hand in mine into your icy blues, and then I'd say to you, we could take to the highway with this trunk of ammunition too. I'd end my days with you in the hail of bullets, and I'm trying to let you know just how much you mean to me. Put each other through it. I would drive on to the end with you. A liquor store too keeps the gas tank full, and I feel like there's nothing left to do but prove myself to you, and we'll keep it running. But this time, I mean it. I'll let you know just how much you mean to me. As snow falls on desert sky until the end of everything. I'm trying to let you know just how much you mean to me. As days fade and nights grow and we grow cold together, I'm trying to let you know just how much you mean to me. As days fade and nights grow and we grow cold together. Never in my eyes will I see a picture between you and me. Never in my eyes will I see a picture between you and me.
Roll out!
Oh, where's the use? No heals, bro. Oof.
After all you put me through, is there something left to do? Or did you forget the route? Do you need my help with that too?
Yo, that's actually nice. That was really cool though. I died, but I didn't know you could do that. Allies that move through plasma will have movement speed increased 30% and are granted shield for 3 seconds. Do I get a bonus or no? I don't know, dude, damage.
But I know you're here for me, and I know you aren't leaving me, and I know that you'd kill for me and die for me. It's chill. Still, it's just us two against the universe, and we don't have a fighting chance. Next year we'll both be pushing daffodils.
Right now it's not looking good.
Do I get the bonus? Hey boss, do I get the bonus? Hey boss.
3, 2, 1, fight!
Yo! 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 No! What was that? Rematch. Mr. Sparky Spark. Oh dang. Oh dang. Fair enough. Whoa. See why Pestlers is S tier? Bruh, how did they win the orb like that? Bruh. that's enough battle rifle today. I'm gonna put